Okay, y'all, the question I'm addressing today is essentially this. I'm a musician, I want to play at retirement communities, but I'm afraid that there's not enough relevant music in my set. Okay, so that was the question. That wasn't me saying that necessarily. The fear of not having enough relevant music is a good concern to have, because if you're not playing relevant music, then you're going to lose the audience and you're not going to be asked back. You'll still get paid, you know, unless it's a complete disaster, which is very rare. So just be cool and be polite and kind if things are not going your way. Just chalk it up to a lesson and continue. But that's not the majority of the time what's going to happen. So when I was just starting out, I had a lot of material that I learned from music school. And some of them were like jazz standards, but some of them were songs that people didn't really know. So I recommend having a baseline of, I mean, not like a baseline, but a base of about 50 minutes of music. And if you're a musician who wants to play gigs at retirement communities, you may already be playing gigs somewhere else. So just look at your library, look at what you already have, take an inventory. And then from that, if you want to play at retirement communities, you want to look back as far as you can, within reason. So right now, if you have stuff from the 1930s, that's perfectly fine. It is starting to phase out in popularity at retirement communities, stuff from the 1930s. Even better is 40s and 50s. So if you have any music, look, I mean, if you don't know, just look at the songs, like look them up on Google and look at when they were written and when they were popular. If any of that is in the 50s and 60s, then that is where I would start. Absolutely. I mean, I said 50s and 60s. I meant 40s and 50s. The 60s, I would sprinkle in, but not make it the dominant part of your set. Because the people that are into the 60s music, not all of them are retired yet. And there's a lot of different styles of 60s music too. So if you're worried that you don't have enough relevant music, the way that I look at it is, number one, first take an inventory of what you already have and verify that. So question that thought. Question that thought. Now, if you already know that you absolutely don't have enough relevant music, for example, if you only know stuff from like the 2000s, then what your task is to make a list of songs that you've heard enough that you want to learn. So you're going to have to put in a little bit of work, but it's not going to cost you anything. Just sit down and learn it. It might take you a month, it might take you a year, but that's where you have to start. You have to have at least 50 minutes of music. Now, that could look like a third is from the 1940s, a third is from the 1950s, and a third's from the 1960s. That would be a perfectly good arrangement. If, for example, you had, you might specialize in something. That's a bit of a different approach. My approach that's worked for me has been to go general. And it's allowed me to reach a lot more audiences within the retirement community world. If you have a specific act, for example, one thing that I tried to do was to be the ragtime piano guy, because ragtime's cool and I liked playing it and it was rewarding because it took a lot of practice, but then once you practiced, then it felt really good. But what I noticed is if I tried to play a set of all ragtime music, the audiences would get restless. Ragtime is very niche. If I were to market myself as a ragtime piano player, I would practice really hard and then I would probably try to play at music festivals and go that route. But that's not the route that I like. I mean, I tried being a musician that lived on the road with the Ghost Town Blues Band. And I didn't like the lifestyle. I just didn't. I mean, there's some people that thrive on that. No sleep, driving 20 hours to get to the show. But my body didn't feel good, and I was not able to put that pain into the music because that's just not how I dealt with it, if that makes sense. I just never really talked about this before. But I believe that some artists can put the pain of travel into the music, and it fuels the music. But it just didn't do that for me. Like, I was just grumpy. So that's what happened. I started working on a different lifestyle, and that's how I got into doing this again. So just to recap really quickly, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. With the Ghost Town Blues Band, I was playing these gigs beforehand, and there was times when I would be full-time, and then there's other times when I was like not focused or like doing other things. Like, I was in my early 20s, and so I didn't really focus that much. So I had other side jobs before Ghost Town Blues Band, and then I did that full-time and played retirement community gigs on the side. That was 2017, 2018. And then after that, I went full-time into doing this again. And then the pandemic hit, and I had to do other work. But I'm back at it again, going strong, full-time for, I mean, since communities opened up, which has been about 18 months now. So that's cool. So that's a little bit about the history there. Let's circle back to the point that I was trying to make. So if you have a set of stuff from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that's totally fine. If you don't know any music from that era, learn it. Learn it. And then you'll have the bare minimum as far as music goes. So that is how you have to, that's what you have to do to alleviate that fear, is if you go in and you play music that they don't know, they could be polite, they might even like it, but they really need to hear relevant music. And furthermore, you have to assess the type of community that you're playing in as well. If you're playing in memory care, so there's many different types of retirement communities. I'll probably make a video on this to explain it. But if you go into a memory care unit, the people there have a much different relationship with music than people in independent living. So essentially, independent living is just retired, want to live a fun lifestyle with lots of activity and enjoy retirement. Memory care is much different. Memory care, these people need extra care, and they might not be cognizant of everyday things. They might think that, they might be stuck in sort of like the way I describe it is like a time loop, where they think that something's happened, like they might ask you continually, like, are you going to take me to the bank? And the compassionate thing to do in those situations, y'all, is to just play along. Be like, oh yeah, somebody's going to take you to the bank after the show. I'm going to talk more about that in another video. But essentially, retirement communities, memory care units rather, are the places to play the songs from earlier, 1930s, 1920s even. And independent living, you're going to play stuff that's closer to the 40s, 50s, and sprinkle in some 60s stuff too. So that's it, y'all. That's all my thoughts for today. Let me know what you think, and let me know what questions you have. Thanks.